A 25-year-old Australian woman was gang raped by 5 men in Paris. The incident occurred just days before the start of the 2024 Olympic Games, raising significant safety concerns.
I said, suppose something like this happened to your daughter, would you still say what you're saying so vehemently? What would you do? Then he sat back. Then he said, I would gouge this guy's eyeballs out with my own hands. I would cut his genitals. So that kind of emotion is there in people. Now the killing by the police, if you go this way, you will not have a civilized nation left. He just sleeps in one room, 10 boys are sleeping, working through the day and night and rubbish atmosphere, okay? Inhuman atmosphere, it's like a concentration camp. Most of them are living in that kind of conditions. And there is no solution for him. Avenues of expression in their life, like sport, art, music, education, so many things are there to engage you. Nothing to engage you, just your hormones are bursting within you. From your village, you came to your city, suddenly you see young girls, the kind of people that you saw in the movies are walking on the street. The guy goes crazy. In the evening with friends, if he drinks, the guy goes wild, all right? And of course, people are selling all kinds of wild pornographic videos, he sees those things and he thinks that's the thing to do.
Sadhguru, this morning, those accused in the recent Hyderabad rape and murder case, they were shot dead by the police in an encounter. As a woman, I am quite disturbed with this series of events. But at the same time, I feel justice is served. Sadhguru, do you also feel that they got what they deserved?
Well, what happened to that young woman? Unfortunately, is not an isolated case. And this is not just happening in this country, it's happening all over the world. Just on the basis of gender, that a human being is brutalized in this way is happening everywhere. It was at a much lower scale in this country simply because till this generation, largely women were protected, they were indoors, in their homes. There was not much room for these things. It happened with people that they know. This kind of brutalization was not there because normally women were in protected spaces. This is the first generation stepping out and now this is on the rise. One terrible event after another, one more brutal than the other is happening. Well, if you were a close friend or a family of this young woman, definitely you would want to do this. Just let me tell you how it is. So I'm talking about a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, I was in California and something similar happened in California. And we were discussing this and different people saying different things because I was with a group of people who are against capital punishment. They don't believe in capital punishment. I also don't want to hang anybody. But at the same time, when certain things happen, not just as crime, somebody has taken absolute pleasure in tormenting, demoralizing and making a human being absolutely wretched. They just didn't do it, they took enormous pleasure in doing it. So this discussion was going on and this particular person who is an activist against capital punishment, it got very heated. Then I asked, see, suppose, because he had a 14-15-year-old daughter and the case that we were discussing was somewhere near that kind of age group. I said, suppose something like this happened to your daughter, would you still say what you're saying so vehemently? What would you do? Then he sat back. Then he said, I would gouge this guy's eyeballs out with my own hands. I would cut his genitals, I would do this, that, everything, and I would want him to die, taking 3 days at least to die. I said, see? So that kind of emotion is there in people. Now the killing by the police, if you go this way, you will not have a civilized nation left. If the police and the judiciary start acting upon families' emotion or people's emotions, then there will be no rule of law at all. In the process of building a civilized nation or a society, rule of law is not always justice. Rule of law is not justice. Rule of law prevents a whole lot of things that could happen. Well, right now you must understand this, the rule of law is like this. Suppose you have an automobile, you have a motorcycle, and this guy comes and rides it away, and he hides it in his house. So you gather a group of 5 people, go there, thrash him and take your motorcycle and come back. Now you will go to jail. It's the rule of law. Because you're supposed to go and complain to the police. So this looks so totally unjust, but if we give up the rule of law, then jungle will come into the town, okay? So whether the police shoot or the crowd lynched him, what is the big difference? Actually, crowd is standing in front of the police station and demanding, hand those guys over to us, we will take care of them. They would have lynched them. Well, in the parliament, people are saying, let's lynch them. Parliament. Well, this is the emotion when you see the wretched thing that they have done. No question about it, not that we have any sympathies for them. But if you give up the rule of law and start doing these things, how do you know? How do you know? This is the most unpopular thing to say, you will get me into trouble, but let me say it. How do you know? Suppose I am the police person and today there's a huge pressure in the town that this has happened. What do? The first 4 guys who are sitting here pick them up and say, these are the guys. And if I wait for 2 days, these guys are going to speak. So best thing is shoot them or hang them in the prison and say they committed suicide. That's it, case closed, my job is done, I get a medal. I'm saying there are many loopholes to this kind of things. So once you go into that region, then there is no control. Right now, the nation's emotion is such that the right thing has been done to these 4 people. Well, I don't want to go into the details of it could be anything, but at the same time, in the cover of darkness, if these 4 people had escaped, then what would the nation say? Then every one of us would be saying, these police are so incompetent, they are no good for anything, they are probably cahoots with them, maybe the policeman also raped that girl, all kinds of things would come out. Journalism would go loose on everything. So there are many aspects to it, it's a terribly sensitive matter. But should we move towards going for quick justice? If a crime happens, tomorrow morning shoot them or hang them. Well, if you bring back the kangaroo courts, then you will be taking a backward step in our efforts to civilize this world. Don't think the world is civilized, okay? You have to constantly, in every generation, move them towards civilization, constantly. Otherwise, they will go backwards with these emotions. When something that's precious to me has been lost, then I will say, let's break the law and do this, because it hurts me so much. So, it's a very unfortunate scene. It is not for you or me to take sides, which is right, which is wrong. This is the unfortunate reality, but I would say largely this is a consequence of inordinately slow judicial process. That everybody knows if you go to the court, it is going to take 10 years. If my daughter is raped, do I want to wait for 10 years? Definitely not. Right now, the other parents of the another brutal rape and murder of Nirbhaya in Delhi, Those parents are saying, this is a good thing that happened, I want the same thing to happen to the perpetrators who did the same thing to my daughter. Why? After 7 years, they're still not hung. The sentence has been given, but appeal after appeal, they will go to a higher court and a higher court. His whole life he will spend in the prison and we are paying taxes for him. Yes, we are. When somebody as level-headed, when someone who is as balanced and level-headed as Anand Mahindra says, I will volunteer to be a hangman, because they're saying there's no hangman. Because everybody said no capital punishment, so hangmen have been fired, no hangman. So even if you give a sentence, nobody to pull the rope. When somebody like Anand Mahindra, who is a very level-headed and astute businessman, when he says, I will volunteer, you must understand that justice is too bloody slow, too slow, inhumanly slow. If we don't do something about this will become the norm. It's picked up momentum. Country's emotion is with the police, which is not a good thing. Long term, this is not a good thing for the country.
We portray our India as a woman and call Mother India. Yet we see many rape cases, even in which we see a man raping his own mother, daughter or a sister. What drives a man with such madness of pleasure to do such an inhuman act? And what is the thing that drives him?
So there are many aspects to this. Instead of linking these brutal acts to Mother India, please As I said, we call it Mother Earth. Does it mean to say all crime on this planet will stop? No, there is crime, variety of crime. Sexual assault on women is very much there. There are many aspects to this. One thing is we can get angry and say, okay, hang them. Well, if you bring hanging as a thing for rape, you must understand in a rape case, the only witness is usually the victim. Always, almost always. The only witness is the victim. If you guarantee a rapist that if you rape and if you get caught, you will hang for sure, what do you think he will do? He will eliminate that only witness. Yes or no? So, before we say something, we must be careful what we are saying. This does not mean we are supporting them, it just means, are you looking for a solution or are you looking for a kangaroo court? Hang everybody? No. Why is this happening? We must look at it. Why is it happening if you look at it? One thing is, India as a culture, this is the first generation that women are actually coming out on the street and walking with men and working with men and, close proximity. People are not used to this. And millions of young people are moving from villages to cities. In their village, their idea of a woman was their mother who was like this, or their mausi who was like that, their atte or somebody at the party, it was like that. Now they come and see young girls walking on the street, it's very new for them. Let us not simply discount things and act like we are some kind of a dropped from somewhere. Human beings have sexuality in them. Between the ages of 15 and 25, it may be in maximum force, the hormonal influence. Unless one is disciplined with a certain cultivation of intellect and other avenues of expression in their life, like sport, art, music, education, so many things are there to engage you. Nothing to engage you, just your hormones are bursting within you. From your village, you came to your city, suddenly you see young girls, the kind of people that you saw in the movies are walking on the street. The guy goes crazy. And above all, You've been encouraging alcohol everywhere. The moment 2 drops of alcohol fall into him, he goes absolutely crazy in the evenings. If he thinks nobody is watching, he will pounce on somebody. There is also a sociological issue in this. If he was in the village, his mother, his aunt, somebody will be talking, you know that girl, we're going to get you married to that girl. Whether he marries that girl or not, in his mind, there is a solution for his needs. He comes to the city alone, he just sleeps in one room, 10 boys are sleeping, working through the day and night and rubbish atmosphere, okay? Inhuman atmosphere, it's like a concentration camp. Most of them are living in that kind of conditions. And there is no solution for him. For his hormones, for his life, for his body, for his emotion, for his life, there is no solution. There is not one person who is going there asking, okay, what are you going to do? Who are you going to marry? How are you going to settle your life? Is there any one human being looking at him? No. In the evening with friends, if he drinks, the guy goes wild, all right? And of course, people are selling all kinds of wild pornographic videos, he sees those things and he thinks that's the thing to do. So, well, when somebody commits a crime, you have to punish them, that's another matter. I'm not going to get into that. But sociologically, what is the solution? Are you teaching them to become ascetics? Are you teaching them yoga, sadhana so that they will become brahmacharis and walk free of these things? No, you have not taught them anything like that. Are you going to give them a solution? If he was in the village by 18, 19, he would be married to somebody. Now he has no hope, he's simply there and he will do wild things. This is the nature of a human being, we must understand. So as a generation, as a culture, this situation that has changed, just 50 years ago, almost every girl was married by the time she's 16, 17, a boy was married before he was 20. So before he was going out of control, his things were settled. Now there is no settlement for his life. So, just being puritanical is not going to work. We must at least be willing to debate what are we going to do with our youth. Youth means there are many aspects. One aspect is there's an influence of hormones in them. Are you going to address it? Or are you going to just close your eyes and say, no, nothing like that, just hang a few people, everything will be okay? It is not going to be okay. So we must address it, a time has come, we must address it, rather than linking this to Bharat Mata, please.
A 25-year-old Australian woman was gang raped by 5 men in Paris. The incident occurred just days before the start of the 2024 Olympic Games, raising significant safety concerns. The woman sought refuge in a kebab shop in the Pigalle district where her torn dress indicated she had been assaulted. French police have launched an investigation and this event has intensified discussions around the safety of tourists and athletes in Paris during the Olympics. Here is a more detailed look at countries with the highest reported rape rates, including additional statistics and context. South Africa has the highest rape rate in the world with approximately 132.4 incidents per 100,000 people. This translates to around 66,196 reported incidents. A survey by the South African Medical Research Council found that roughly 1 in 4 men admitted to committing rape. Factors contributing to this high rate include widespread gender-based violence, cultural attitudes and ineffective law enforcement. Botswana has a reported rape rate of 92.90 incidents per 100,000 people. This high rate is attributed to social and cultural factors as well as issues within the legal and judicial systems that make it difficult for victims to seek justice. Lesotho reports a rape rate of 82.70 incidents per 100,000 people with around 1,777 reported incidents. The prevalence of gender-based violence and societal norms that perpetuate violence against women contribute significantly to the high rate. Swaziland has a rape rate of 77.50 per 100,000 people with 849 reported incidents. Factors include patriarchal societal structures and inadequate legal protections for women. Bermuda reports a rape rate of 67.30 per 100,000 people with 43 reported incidents. The high rate is partly due to improved reporting mechanisms, but societal attitudes towards gender and sexual violence also play a role. Sweden has a rape rate of 63.50 incidents per 100,000 people, equating to around 5,960 incidents. Suriname has a rape rate of 45.20 incidents per 100,000 people with 223 reported cases. Costa Rica reports a rape rate of 36.70 per 100,000 people with around 1,685 reported incidents. Nicaragua has a rape rate of 31.60 per 100,000 people with 1,829 reported incidents. Grenada reports a rape rate of 30.60 per 100,000 people with 32 reported incidents. Other notable countries: Bangladesh reports a rape rate of 9.82 per 100,000 people with 11,682 reported incidents. In 2020 alone, there were 975 reported cases, including 208 gang rapes. India reports a rape rate of 1.80 per 100,000 people with 22,172 reported incidents. On average, 87 rape cases were reported daily in 2019. The high numbers are partly due to increased reporting and societal issues such as gender inequality and inadequate legal protections. USA. The United States has a rape rate of 27.3 per 100,000 people with 84,767 reported incidents. Shockingly, only 9% of rapists are prosecuted and just 3% spend a day in prison. The high rate is attributed to factors like underreporting, societal attitudes, and insufficient legal repercussions for perpetrators. Factors contributing to high rape rates: cultural attitudes. Societal norms and cultural attitudes towards gender and sexual violence significantly influence rape rates. Legal and judicial systems. Ineffective legal frameworks and judicial systems often fail to protect victims and hold perpetrators accountable. Reporting mechanisms. Countries with higher reporting rates often have mechanisms in place that encourage victims to come forward, while underreporting is a significant issue in many regions. Economic and social factors. Economic disparities, social instability, and domestic violence contribute to higher rates of sexual violence. Addressing the issue of sexual violence requires comprehensive strategies, including legal reforms, public awareness campaigns, support systems for victims, and addressing underlying social and cultural factors.